Spring in America. The Great Awakening. An explosion in new growth and new life. This is the season of movement, of ancient migrations from distant lands to give rise to the next generation. Spring is when youngsters learn through trial and error, when animals go to great lengths and scale towering heights. Each year, the ebb and flow of the seasons transforms the land and all its wildlife. Spring bursts forth in this wild American year. The spring equinox. The northern hemisphere begins its nod toward the sun, tilting on the planet's axis. In the face of surging warmth, America's blanket of snow and ice starts to retreat. Nature slowly comes back to life. It's March 21st, the first day of spring. In the northeast corner of Iowa, the temperature finally nudges above freezing after a long, cold winter. The Mississippi, the largest river basin in the nation, breaks free of ice. The thaw attracts flocks of gulls, which swarm the backwaters of the mighty river. The birds have come for a feast. Thousands of gizzard shad, a type of herring killed by winter's freeze. Their bodies were preserved in solid ice. Now, they float to the surface in the spring thaw, where the gulls are waiting for them. But another animal is about to crash the party. Bald eagles are hungry after the lean months of winter. Adults with their iconic white heads and mottled juveniles gather along this stretch of the upper Mississippi. The eagles cruise low and swoop down to snatch the fish in their powerful talons. The dead shad are easy pickings. But that doesn't stop the scavengers from stealing from the gulls or each other. The windfall of frozen dinners couldn't come at a better time for this female. She and her mate have a young family to feed. These nestlings are bottomless pits, gaining 20 times their birth weight in just 3 weeks. Whatever they can't eat now, they save for later in their bulging crops. They've got around 2 more months to grow big enough and strong enough to leave the family nest. As the frozen river transforms into open water, the supply of gizzard shad will eventually run out. But for now, the fishing is good. Under the sun's strengthening gaze, the mighty Mississippi slowly comes to life. Across the nation, nature reawakens after the long winter's rest. Snow melts in the Rocky Mountains. Leaves unfurl in the eastern woodlands. Meadow flowers cloak the grasslands. And rainstorms flood rivers in the Hawaiian Islands. The arrival of spring sets the stage for one of the greatest animal migrations on Earth. It's daybreak along a 120-kilometer stretch of the Platte River in Nebraska. Hundreds of thousands of sandhill cranes wake from a night spent in the protected shallows of the river. It's a popular rest stop on the crane's migration from the subtropics to the Arctic. With breeding season on the horizon, singles in the crowd use their time at the stopover to put the moves on possible mates. When they're not playing the dating game, the cranes take field trips to nearby farms to fuel up on waste grain left over from last fall's harvest. As the sun dips down in the Nebraska sky, the flocks reunite back at the river to roost for the night. The sandhill cranes will spend around a month here. Then, with a tailwind at their back, they'll be off to ride the thermal air currents north. Spring is the season for new life to emerge. For many animals, a baby boom early in the season gives the young a jump start. They'll have plenty of time to grow strong before the harsh return of winter. All across the nation, mothers embark on the most demanding time in their lives. This bison calf was born yesterday. He's the newest member of a herd that roams the grasslands of South Dakota. For centuries, the American bison was the ruler of this kingdom of grass. Tens of millions roamed the plains of North America. Today, fewer than 30,000 wild bison remain. The day-old calf is the living legacy of the ancient herds that once roamed the prairie. His springtime exuberance is on full display. Early April is the start of calving season, so he has plenty of company. Chasing and play fighting are part of the program. He'll grow fast on his mother's milk, gaining nearly 1 kilogram a day. He's on track to join the ranks of the largest land animal in North America. But he's got a long way to go before he reaches 1,000 kilograms. Today, he's got to prove himself, keeping up with the herd as it moves to another valley in search of fresh pasture. Crossing a creek bed is easy enough for his mom, but this untested traveler needs some coaxing. It's a big leap for a little calf. One by one, all the calves pass their first test with flying colors, building the strength and agility they'll need to survive their first and most dangerous season. Hundreds of meters up, spring comes later to the high elevation plains of Wyoming. Snow here can stick around well into April. The ground, just emerged from winter's cover, remains drab and brown. But as temperatures rise, the action heats up on the grasslands. It's time for prairie fowl to throw their spring dances to compete for mates. The male greater prairie chickens kick off the event with eye-catching, throat-popping moves. They force air through orange sacs on their necks. The booming sound will draw females from 2 kilometers away. The sharp-tailed grouse are next to get their groove on. Rapid-fire tail rattles and fancy footwork help impress the females. The most flamboyant display comes from the greater sage grouse. This male needs to get something off his chest. When inflated, his 2 large sacs do most of the dancing for him. It's a spectacle of sight and sound that only a female grouse finds hard to resist. Mating season will end in a few weeks, clearing out the dance floor until next year. While spring advances across the continent, in the far west of the nation, the season barely registers. It's a 4,800-kilometer leap to the islands of Hawaii. Lying just south of the Tropic of Cancer, seasonal transitions hold little sway here. And yet, spring is the peak time for a remarkable migration. It's triggered by the planet's most essential element, water. Runoff from torrential spring rains engorges creeks and riverbeds, spilling out into the Pacific Ocean. The pulse of fresh water sends a powerful signal to tiny young fish at sea. They heed its siren call and gather at the mouths of rivers. The Hawaiians call them o'opunupili, the fish that clings. After 6 months filling up on plankton at sea, juveniles of both sexes are driven to return as adults to their freshwater home. But that requires a transformation. In just a couple of days, the exposure to fresh water radically changes their bodies. Each was born with a sucker on its belly to hold onto rocks at sea. But now, their mouth migrates to their underside to act as a second sucker. These climbing gobies are about to embark on a monumental journey. To reach the streambed above, they must first scale these falls. One by one, the gobies emerge and start to inch their way up the rocks. This female joins the throng of thousands. She uses her mouth to attach to the rock face, then pulls her body up to latch on with her belly sucker, propelling herself upwards like an inchworm. Choosing the right route is critical. Too little water, and she can't breathe through her gills. Too much water, and she'll be swept back to sea. With her altered physiology, salt water will kill her. Beneath her, the force of the water sweeps hundreds away. Others hit dead ends. The dropout rate increases with every meter. Finally, the female is on the home stretch. She's exhausted. For a creature no longer than a thumb, every inch upwards is a battle. But instinct pushes her on. At last, the female crests the falls and reaches the stream where she'll live out her life. In a year or so, she'll find a mate and lay eggs in these sheltered waters. When they hatch, the larvae will spill over the falls and out to sea, where the goby's incredible journey will begin anew. By late April, much of the nation has burst into bloom. Carpets of bluebells in Texas. Irises in Florida. And an explosion of wildflowers in the desert. The southwest of Arizona is one of the hottest and driest climates in the country. But even here, winter rainstorms delivered just enough moisture to support a brilliant display of spring blooms. They're attracting some equally colorful visitors. Each spring, thousands of hummingbirds migrate from Mexico, funneling north through Arizona. The desert flowers, with their sugar-rich nectar, are just what these long-distance flyers need to refuel. The blooms and birds fit like a hand in glove. Both have adapted to each other through the ages. The flowers growing brightly colored narrow tubes, while the birds evolved long, thin bills. The flowers feed the hummingbirds, and in return, the birds pollinate the flowers. While some hummingbirds will continue north, even as far as Canada, many stay in Arizona to breed. This Anna's hummingbird is preparing for young, a task that falls solely to the females. She uses soft threads from fuzzy seed pods to build her nest. Spider webbing helps bind her nest and anchor it to the branch. She maneuvers like a mini helicopter. Hummingbirds can hover in place and fly backwards. The only known bird that can do so. It takes up to 10 days for her to build a nest no bigger than a shot glass. Perfect for her 2 eggs, the size of jelly beans. She'll incubate them alone, only leaving for brief trips to find food. After 2 weeks, her dedication pays off. Now the real hard work begins, feeding the next batch of these tiny wonders of evolution. Baby making is on a much grander scale in the freshwater swamps of Central Florida. It's early May. This far south, the small boost in daylight hours and temperature barely registers. But it's enough to spark a dragon's desire. It's the American alligator. This beefy 270-kilogram male lives a solitary life. But spring's warmth jumpstarts his metabolism. And with it, his libido. It's time to sire a new generation of cold-blooded predators. After living alone for most of the year, Now he puts out the welcome mat, for ladies only. His courting bellow can be heard over a kilometer away. At the same time, he emits low-frequency sounds that make the water dance. His rumbles lure an admirer. A female joins the lord of the lagoon. She initiates courtship. It's surprisingly tender for such fierce predators. The reptile romance lasts for hours. But mating is over in a flash. And she takes her leave. The spring fling will pay off in summer, when the female builds a nest to lay her clutch of eggs. It's back to the single life for the male, which is just as well. He's more likely to eat his young than care for them. Spring in Alaska couldn't be more different. The northernmost state in the nation struggles to leave winter behind. It's mid-May, and at last the sea ice breaks up along the north coast. The growing season is short, but intense. The sun floods the state with more daylight hours than anywhere else in the country. As soon as the snow departs, wildlife rushes in. Caribou trek hundreds of kilometers to calving grounds to the north. Snow geese flock here from Mexico to nest. And humpback whales return to feed after winter breeding in Hawaii. But some hardy creatures live in Alaska year-round. The northern sea otter thrives in Prince William Sound on the warmer south coast. Here, the waters never get cold enough to freeze over. But even in May, there's still a chilly 4 degrees Celsius. It's not exactly a warm and cushy nursery for the colony's most recent arrivals. A handful of newborns. These 3-week-old pups are helpless, unable to swim or stay warm on their own. They won't survive without their devoted mothers, who care for the babies single-handedly. Fathers play no part in raising their young. In this protective cove, the retreating tide exposes a small island. The mothers seize the opportunity to turn it into an otter spa. Grooming their pups traps air in their fur, which keeps them buoyant and insulates them from the cold. With their pups cleaned and fluffed, the doting mothers return to the sea. It's time to catch dinner. This is the riskiest part of an otter mother's routine. she has to leave her pup unattended. While she hunts for fish, her pup floats like a cork. At this age, he's vulnerable, unable to swim or dive to escape predators. Bald eagles will add otter pup to their diet if they get the chance. This pup's not up for grabs. She'll care for him round the clock for another 6 months, until her pup is weaned and can fend for himself. And only then can one of nature's hardest working mothers take a break. It's late May. The summer solstice is just a month away. The lush woodlands of the upper Midwest are warming up fast. The temperature finally nudges past 20 degrees Celsius. In western Wisconsin, rainwater and snowmelt have collected into ponds and marshes, now bursting with life. One of the most iconic woodland residents has timed the arrival of its young with the season. A male wood duck, still dressed in his showy breeding plumage. He abandoned his mate once they chose a nest about a month ago. Most females lay their eggs in tree cavities. But this one laid hers in a nest built by conservation groups. On a cozy nest of their mother's down, this clutch of eggs reaches the end of its month-long incubation. A tiny dent, called a pip, is the first sign they're ready to hatch. It's exhausting work breaking free. The first duckling emerges. The rest of his siblings will hatch over the next 18 hours, all 7 of them. Time for their first meal. But before they can eat, a challenge awaits. At sunrise, the mother hen scans the area for predators. All clear. Breakfast is happening down here. The first brave chick stands ready, hanging on with his flexible, clawed feet. They're the only duck species so equipped. A special call from his mother encourages him to make the leap of faith. It's a 10-meter drop. But he's so light, he bounces off the forest floor unharmed. His courage is contagious. Their mother leads the way to the pond. It's a short trip for this bunch, but some wood duck nests are more than a kilometer away from water. It's time for the newborns to get their feet wet. Fortunately, the ducklings are pretty self-sufficient. They instinctively know how to swim and what to eat. The springtime bloom of insects is high in protein. But at this age, they're not that far up the food chain themselves. A lot of wetland residents can swallow the ducklings whole. It's a vulnerable time, but they've managed to survive their first day in the pond. A good start. Not too far from the Wisconsin pond, just below the Canadian border, the woods are brimming with bears. Young bears, nervous bears. This is the time of year when yearling cubs have been chased off by their mothers to fend for themselves. It's a milestone in the life of every black bear cub, but a rude awakening nonetheless. This mother has spent the past 16 months protecting her 3 cubs. Despite their name, black bears come in several shades, including cinnamon. The family is days away from breaking up. Now that it's mating season, she'll soon have other priorities. A large boar, probably 140 kilograms, muscles his way into the territory. The sow sends her young scurrying out of harm's way. Boars sometimes prey on cubs, even yearlings. Just the presence of the boar could trigger the sow to abandon her offspring. But her motherly instincts win out. He moves on to a more receptive prospect. The sow's already cast out her last batch of cubs, and she's eager to create another. The danger's past, but the teenagers are in no rush to come down to earth. Might as well get in a snooze. The a good scratch. Eventually, they'll get back to enjoying their last days together as a family, before the cubs venture off on their own. Late May sees another spring rite of passage, but on a much larger scale. A prehistoric creature invades the shallows of Delaware Bay on the New Jersey shore. A horseshoe crab. It's not really a crab at all, but a relative of spiders and scorpions. Its ancestors first appeared 450 million years ago. A female hauls herself out of the water, laden with 80,000 eggs tucked under the front of her shell. She's ready to spawn. Several smaller males move in, forming a dense huddle around her, each one trying to fertilize her eggs. Up and down the shore, millions of crabs are spawning, all in sync with the moon and high tides. Billions of eggs lie exposed on the sand. The wayward eggs are green gold to legions of hungry travelers. Hundreds of thousands of weary shorebirds migrating north time their arrival to the crabs. For this semi-palmated sandpiper, Delaware Bay is the only stopover on her long flight from South America to northern Canada. She needs to gain around 70% of her body weight to make the final leg north. Other long-distance flyers, redknots and ruddy turnstones, fuel up for their own epic flights. Underwater diners also get in on the feast. In just 2 weeks, the spawn is over, bringing this ancient rite of spring to a close. By early June, the snowpack is melting fast on California's Sierra Nevada mountains. Runoff from snowmelt has drenched the soil, transforming the arid high plains to the east to rich green grass. The fresh pasture draws a relative newcomer to the continent: mustangs. These feral horses are descendants of domestic stock, brought from Europe hundreds of years ago. Mustangs now range across much of the American West. They each need around 38 liters of water a day. They'll find it everywhere this spring, in pop-up marshes and in the fresh grass itself, which helps nursing mares produce plenty of milk. Mustangs give birth year-round, but spring foals have more time to grow strong before winter. This young colt is safe under his mother's watchful eye. But there will come a day when he'll wear out his welcome. The dominant stallion, leader of the herd, doesn't tolerate competition. He's fiercely protective of his harem of females and drives off any juvenile males. The outcasts of years past group together in a bachelor herd. But this roving band of males isn't happy to sit on the sidelines. They move in on the main herd, looking for an opportunity to mate with a female. Their insolence puts the stallion on edge. The bachelors detect the enticing chemicals released by a dappled mare in heat. Emboldened by testosterone, they make their move. One charges in to mate. The stallion won't stand for the bachelor uprising. The stallion puts the challenger in his place, but he must stay vigilant. As long as he controls all of the females, there'll be a target on his back. Peace restored. The herd returns to grazing. The sun's rays are fading, but its heat will soon intensify. A new season is on the horizon that will scorch the plains and dry out the water holes. But while there's still green grass in the valley, these icons of the Wild West will thrive at home on the range. All across the nation, it's ramping up to the hottest time of the year. Summer is coming, the season of abundance. Wildlife must grab what it can before the feast is gone. For the young born in spring, independence comes with risk. Fierce battles lie ahead against rivals and admirers. Summer is heating up fast in this wild American year.